Sitting in my prison cell, I sent my story to my parents so they could understand how I ended up here and why I refused every deal I was offered to plead guilty to assault and battery, which would have allowed me to escape prison, do community service, maybe save my marriage, as if that was ever important after what happened, and keep my freedom. My name is Ron Jacobs. I'm 29 years old. I worked in construction until I ended up here. I had a wife, Carly, who was my age, and I thought this was the woman I would start a family with and grow old with. When I say there was a wife, this is exactly what I mean. Very soon she will become my ex-wife. I am divorcing her. Carly was, perhaps still is, the secretary of one of the law firm's partners. Obviously, you know where this is going. These bastards often keep a vixen at home to strengthen their family tree, but any bitch with a pulse under 50 is an easy target, and if they need to exploit their position, so what? They can use the law to get most things the way they want, and often have the money to get their way. This particular bastard was Randolph Weissman. His father founded the company, and Randy was always on top until he made too many mistakes. Honestly, I could see why women liked him. He was about 6 feet and a few inches tall, weighed about 200 pounds, was very fit, had a perpetual tan, and was just under 40. An attractive package, as my wife has told me several times. It never bothered me. After all, I also sometimes complimented some of our friends or even random women we saw. We never pretended to each other that we were the only ones out of 8 billion people we found attractive. Carly never gave me any reason to doubt her fidelity. I thought we were as close as we could be and lived for each other. She still claims it's true, although I sure as hell don't understand how she can say that after what happened. One of the benefits of being in prison is that I can refuse to see anyone, and I haven't spoken to Carly since the day I got here, despite the efforts of her, both of our lawyers, our families, and some of our best well-meaning friends. I told everyone the same thing. Mention her again, and we are no longer family friends clients, whatever applies. Several friends and my sister Carly pressured me, and they are now on the list of people I refuse to see or take calls from. My lawyer quickly realized how close I was to being fired and didn't want that to happen because I had a potential big payday that could come after a divorce, and like a good lawyer, he wanted this unlikely but possible payment date. I was sentenced to 2 years for malicious assault causing serious injury and could have gotten 10 years. I think I was lucky with the judge I got. I suspect his wife cheated on him. In his closing statement and sentencing, he noted serious provocation, both by the actions of my wife and her lover in my home, and by the provocative and derogatory words of her lover. However, he also indicated that some of the injuries were not inflicted in self-defense. He also said that I could save the state the cost of the trial if I accepted the offer from the prosecutor. So here I sit, 8 months into my sentence, expecting to be released in 12 months, subject to good behavior, given my previous clean record. When I get out, I intend to ruin lives. If it brings me back here, screw it. The people will get what they deserve, especially that scumbag Weissman. Perhaps the easiest way to tell this is by telling you what I wrote to my parents. Dear Mom and Dad, I'm sorry if I embarrassed you by going to jail. Embarrassing you is not something I ever wanted to do or ever thought would happen. My problem is that otherwise I would never be able to look in the mirror again because of the shame I would feel for tolerating what happened or accepting offers to plead guilty to avoid jail time. I hope you understand why I can never be that person. I loved Carly with all my heart. I thought we would be together for a long time. It just shows what a judge of character I am. I had no idea that she was involved with Weissman in any way, although she told me in passing that he was an attractive man. But so what? There are many attractive people in this world. Everyone talks about them. My life changed forever the day I finished work early after we finished a large extension to the house in the morning, had a few beers over lunch with the whole crew, and we all went about our business around 1:30 p.m. When I returned home, as in all commonplace stories, there was a luxury BMW in my driveway, and there was no sign of Carly's car. This aroused my suspicions, although I never doubted her. Someone with such an expensive car obviously brought it home. As soon as I entered our quiet house, I heard a noise from above and went up to our bedroom. There she lay under her boss. I was stunned. It took me about 15 seconds to react, and in those 15 seconds my anger grew, and I hope I never feel that way again. He's a big guy, but so am I, and he works with his hands while I break my back with hard work. He may have gym fitness, I have working muscles. Uneven fight. I grabbed him by the hair, picked him up, and threw him against the wall. Looking down at Carly, who was white with shock, I told her, "Get your things and get out of my house. You don't live here anymore." Wiseman stood up and looked like he wanted to be a tough guy. He said, "So the cuckold wants to play a tough guy?" And as soon as he finished, I punched him hard in the face. "Don't push your luck, Wiseman. I'm warning you. You are not welcome in my home. If you don't leave, I will hurt you badly." The fool didn't take the warning and threw a punch, but I caught his wrist and twisted it around, forcing his wrist up behind his back. Again, I warned him, "Don't make me hurt you, Wiseman. If you cripple me, I will get you locked up for a long time, and I will have your wife the entire time you are locked up, you cuckold," he mocked, at least until I forced his hand to rise higher. As he screamed in pain, Carly ran towards me saying, "Stop it, Ron. He could really put you away if you continue. Please stop." "Worried about your boyfriend, Carly," I answered. "No, Ron, I'm worried about you. I don't want you to ruin your life because of me and him. I was so stupid." I looked at her with contempt and said, "It's none of your business anymore. I told you to pack your things and get out." "But Ron," she tried to approach me. I couldn't resist and spat in her face. I'm not proud of it, but it stopped her in her tracks, and I screamed, "Get ready and get out, you fucking bitch. I never want to see you again." It worked, and she gathered a few things, sobbing loudly. I turned back to Wiseman. "Your name doesn't seem to match your personality, asshole. A smart man doesn't sleep with the wife of a big brute like me, and certainly doesn't use words like cuckold unless he wants a few broken bones like you have now. Now listen to me. In a minute, when this bitch gets her act together, you and her will get in this shiny car in my driveway and drive away. I recommend that she take you to the emergency room so they can take care of your fractures and pain. Never come back here again, ever, and she's not welcome here either. This is my grandfather's house, given to me before our marriage. She has no rights to it, so don't try any legal tricks on me. If you come back, I'll seriously hurt you next time, so if you like hospital food and wheelchairs, stay away from me. She's your bitch now. Take her to your wife and kids or throw her away. I don't care." Carly howled in grief behind me. "Sorry, bitch. It's all your fault, Carly. I'm not Jesus. I don't forget, and I'll certainly never forgive you, you dirty trash. Your cheap lover could afford a hotel. Then maybe you would leave me in the dark. But maybe you're just a cheap treat, not good enough to spend money on you. Just take you in your husband's bed, right?" I hit Wiseman hard between the legs. "Was it your idea, bastard, to do this in my bed? Give me any more reason, and I will completely ruin your life. Mom and Dad, excuse my language, but I wanted you to know how things went down between me and Carly. Of course, as you know, I'm divorcing her. I'll be a free, single man when I get out of here. I will never look at her again. My last memory will be of me spitting in her face. That's what she deserved. I know you all got through it, but I will never get married again. I will never be able to trust a woman again. Sorry, Mom. But I trusted Carly 100%, and this is where it got me. As you know, I was arrested that night, and from then on the farce began. Wiseman wanted to make good on his promise to put me in jail. He got detailed reports of my injuries for the sheriff. He sued me through his friend at the Dawes office. The charges included malicious assault with serious consequences of 10 years in prison, and he forced Carly to file an assault report for spitting in her face. I was detained, as you know, and then the dance began. I was told that Carly withdrew the assault charge on her own. It was a minor case anyway. I hired a lawyer, and he came to me with an offer from the prosecutor. The offer was that I could plead guilty to simple assault and agree to a 6-month sentence, suspended for 3 years with an obligation to pay Wiseman's medical expenses. There were two conditions to this offer. One, Wiseman insisted that I sign a non-disclosure agreement about what happened between us. Apparently, he just told his wife that he was attacked. Two, I will agree not to divorce Carly until we have completed 10 sessions of reconciliation counseling. The two scammers wanted me to give them a way out. This would never happen. I turned down the offer and decided to take my chances in court. My lawyer told me that this was a good offer and that avoiding prison after the injuries I inflicted on Wiseman was a great result, and that if the trial went poorly, I could do 10 years. I asked him if he understood the principles, what happened in my home, how Wiseman tried to humiliate me in my own home, in my own bed, with my wife. There was no way that I wouldn't get my piece of flesh, despite my personal circumstances. Prison didn't scare me. I was big and strong. I could take care of myself. And when I got out, well, an ex-con could find a job in construction. What I was not going to do under any circumstances was sign a waiver of the right to retaliate, to ruin their lives, and certainly not to attend reconciliation sessions with Carly. She was dead to me. Days passed, and I was told that I had a visitor. You guys visited me a couple of days ago, and I assumed it might be you again. But when I was brought into the room, they brought Carly, and I started shouting, "Guard." They came in to see what was wrong, and I told them to never let that bitch near me again. She started to protest that she was my wife, but they took her out, saying that I don't have to let anyone in if I don't want to. I asked my lawyer to come and start the divorce process. I also asked him if I could sue the company where Carly and her direct boss, Wiseman, worked. He said yes and no. We are in a state that allows domestic interference lawsuits, but no one has had a successful settlement in the last 20 years, but the company might make an offer to settle out of court to avoid bad publicity, and that we could make a lot of noise about the lack of morals in the company. I asked him what would happen if they offered me a deal to end the matter before or after our divorce. He said it's simple. Wait until after the divorce. You want minimum assets when the divorce is finalized. Your home is safe, but she will receive 50% of any other assets. So it will be later, after the divorce, if you talk to her. Please don't mention anything I told you. I know you both loved her like a daughter, but don't let me down on this. Mom and Dad, I love you both. This won't be forever. And that was all. I hope they would understand now that they had the full story, and not what Carly and some so-called friends were telling them who thought I should forgive her. Before my release, I had a problem with divorce. Carly refused to agree to a divorce unless I either agreed to counseling as previously suggested or allowed her up to 3 one-hour visits in which I would have to agree to discuss with her. She was smart enough to know that I could sit quietly and ignore her. I really wanted to be legally rid of her, so I decided that 3 one-hour meetings were better than the option originally proposed by the court. I briefly thought about turning down both offers, serving my time, and then just disappearing, but I sure as hell won't let her kick me out of my home and, just as importantly, away from my parents who are close to retirement and will want their only son in their lives as they age. I hated the thought of being in the same room with her, but against my wishes I agreed to her offer of 3 visits. Ruin your life, find the woman you deserve, have a family, and make you both happy. Make your parents proud, live a wonderful life. I wish it were me, but I'm too stupid to live, although I don't have the courage to do what I should. I hope one day you can think of me and smile for what we had and not for how I ruined everything. I said what I needed to say. Now I'll leave. Just understand that I ruined my own life. Please don't let me ruin yours. I will always love you. Goodbye, Ron. I felt pretty strong emotions after all of this and told her, Carly, you're right. We can never be together again. It's simple. I can never trust you. But today you showed me something from the woman I fell in love with. Carly, I want you to know that with what you said, I can't go back to loving you without trust, but I don't hate you anymore. I hope you have a good life, Carly. One mistake won't make you a bad person, just a completely unsuitable person for me. Goodbye, Carly. We hugged goodbye, and she left. I knew that what she said was difficult for her. She took all the blame on herself, admitted that she was stupid, but did not say anything that could change my decision about the divorce. and she said that she would sign the papers for divorce. There is no need for a third meeting. Carly kept her word, signed the divorce papers, and our divorce was approved and awaiting the final decree. Shortly after my last visit with Carly, my release date from prison was confirmed. I was released, my parents came to jail to pick me up. I served my time without jeopardizing my right to a trial, and I had the idea of making life very difficult for a certain Randolph Weissman. The morning after my release, I visited my lawyer. It was time to launch an attack on Weissman. I served a year in jail for what I did to him. He promised me jail when I caught him with Carly in my bed, and I hurt his shoulder and broke several bones in his arm. Did this deserve a year in prison out of a 2-year sentence? In my opinion, no. He only got a fraction of what he deserved. Now I was going to make sure his life went wrong. My lawyer and I have devised a chain of events to make Weissman's life miserable. First, by filing a notice with his firm, Weissman, Dick and Wankstein Lawyers, of our intention to sue the firm for failing to comply with its duty to prevent sexual harassment and the existence of a sexual relationship between a senior partner and junior employee. Of course, we expected them to laugh and tell us that the state hadn't had a successful lawsuit on this issue in 20 years. Our next step will be a media campaign where the aggrieved husband will quote details of how he found his senior partner in bed with his wife in his home, and that the unhappy husband was humiliated by Weissman before using physical violence to force the lawyer out of his house. If that's not enough, we'll tell you how this man got me jailed through his friend in the Dawes office, and that the unfortunate husband served a year in jail for assault, and that his divorce is almost finalized after Weissman destroyed his marriage. It helped that my lawyer had a journalist friend who hated Weissman and would do whatever it took to get the story into the newspapers so that it would be of interest to the national press. We hoped that Weissman's partners would not want the unpleasant smell of such a story and would come to an agreement out of court. My next goal was Weissman's marriage. He ruined mine. I hope to answer him in the same way, but I'll wait until we settle the matter with the company. We were absolutely right about how things happened. Weissman, Dick, and Wankstein responded. Ridiculing the case would be an understatement. They said we must have a lot of money to waste on a lost cause that will never make a penny. My lawyer's response letter really scared the firm. Suddenly, it wasn't funny anymore. Suddenly, they started threatening to ruin me if I revealed this story to the press. Without exaggeration, I was practically broke, 12 months in prison, little or no savings, and a bleak outlook. An ideal position to not be afraid of bankruptcy. This is exactly what he told them in his response letter. He exaggerated by saying that he was taking this case pro bono, given the scale of injustice that the unfortunate husband faced. They requested a meeting at their office with my lawyer and me. When we were shown into the conference room, there he was, the bastard himself. As soon as I sat down, he couldn't help himself. Well, if it's not the little cuckold, I heard you came to us with your hand outstretched, looking for alms. Did you like the prison sentence I arranged for you with the prosecutor? I knew you were too stupid to accept the offer he made you. He sat down and laughed. Weissman, I told you what would happen if you talked to me like that again. You just made an appointment with a pain doctor. Suddenly, oh, for God's sake, Randolph, stop this macho crap. We're trying to solve this, not make it worse. This was William Wankstein, another son of one of the founders. Randolph, if you can't stop this chatter, it would be best if you left it to us. Slightly ashamed by his partner's scolding, okay, William, I get it. The cuckold and I have a history, which is of course what brought us all here today. Let's hear what they have to say. My lawyer Giles spoke up. Gentlemen, it is simple. As stated in our letter, we intend to pursue a claim for interference with family relations. This may seem like a small matter, and we don't expect significant results, except that we will have a great opportunity, with the help of a productive journalist, to give your law firm great publicity, although stories about a partner in the firm being cheated on and a husband being imprisoned may not be the same, what you need. So, this is essentially an attempt to blackmail this company. Dick was indignant. This is Howard Dick, another senior partner and eldest son of Arnold Dick, another founder. Mr. Dick, my client lost his wife and served a year in prison. Without your partner Randolph Wiseman's inappropriate actions, he would still be married, have a loving wife, still work, and never see the inside of a prison cell. This firm has seriously harmed my client, and if the courts cannot bring justice, we will use other methods to do so. Let me tell you that my journalist friend and ex-wife worked at this company. Guess which partner she worked for. He has every incentive to drag you all through the mud of public opinion. He will do it with pleasure. You other gentlemen, I assume that all but Wiseman are gentlemen and disapprove of his actions, may consider whether it is in your best interests to remain in partnership with him. Suddenly, a loud hymn came from the previously silent Peter Cam. Really, was all he said, looking at Wiseman as if he were seeing something unpleasant. Giles took the floor again. We think that $1 million is not enough, but this is fair compensation in the current circumstances, so that, well, let's say, so that this trouble disappears for the company. Peter Cam spoke again. We will inform you before the end of the working day, gentlemen. Good afternoon. With these words, he left the room, apparently barely able to contain his anger. Less than 2 hours later, we learned that not only had the partners agreed to pay compensation, but they also wanted Giles to tell me that the other partners had bought out Wiseman's share for a very low price, and he was no longer a partner. My signature was required to confirm a full and final settlement with their firm and a statement that they would not be subject to further claims. Another part of my plan is complete. Now it was time to resolve other issues. I had the greatest desire revenge on Wiseman. For this, I did not need a lawyer, only my own anger and a little natural cunning. I started getting to know Wiseman's wife. She went to the gym 4 mornings a week to maintain her very slim figure. She was a beautiful middle-aged woman, with slightly wider hips than she might have been before having 3 children, but still very attractive. God knows why she wasn't enough for Wiseman. I followed her for 2 weeks to understand what she was doing and where she was going. Interestingly, she spent the 5th morning of the work week in the house of a man, perhaps 10 years younger than her. I decided that catching her by surprise when she came out 2 hours later on one of the Wednesdays might be a good idea. So I did. Mrs. Wiseman, can we talk? I asked as she walked the 100 yards to her car. Sorry, I'm in a hurry, she replied. Does your husband know that you come here on Wednesdays, Mrs. Wiseman? This caught her attention. It seemed they were both equally bad. They were both cheating. Let's see what's really going on here, I thought. Okay, what do you want? Just a quick chat, Mrs. Wiseman. Let me buy you a coffee across the street. Don't worry, this is a public place, and I'm not dangerous. We crossed the road and sat down. I began. Do you remember how your husband came home with injuries a little over a year ago? She nodded that she remembered. I don't know how he explained it, but I did it. You see, I caught him in my bed, between my wife's legs, and when I pulled him away from her, he tried to humiliate me, so I dealt with him. Did he tell you that he was no longer a partner in Wiseman, Dick, and Wangstein? She shook her head no. I did it too, indirectly. Now I want to find ways to ruin his life even more. Mrs. Wiseman, you know your husband has done this before, don't you? I know he did this throughout our marriage. In recent years, I have also begun to have certain affairs, as you have already discovered. My last one is Ryan, whose house I was at this morning. Mrs. Wiseman, so I assume you have a comfortable lifestyle, and for this reason you tolerate his infidelity and seek comfort in other places, I said with some disappointment. Oh, I understand, Mr. Jacobs. You were hoping to find a faithful housewife to anger her with her husband's betrayal. You wanted to provoke a divorce, perhaps. I nodded that it was so. Sorry to disappoint you, Mr. P. Jacobs. I'm way too comfortable in my existence. More importantly, I have 3 pretty young children to raise, and besides, I've been getting the best sex of my life for the last 8 years, not with my husband, of course. Ryan is especially good. Oh God, just God, I wish it was more than 1 morning a week, but I probably play to avoid getting caught, try to be careful, just not that careful, obviously, now that you know about it. You should know that I tolerate Randy. I once really loved him, but his infidelities killed that love. I guess having children makes things less clear, Mr. Durgis Jacobs. I'm guessing you and your ex-wife didn't have children. Anyway, I'm the one who holds the wealth in our family. I have a significant trust fund from my grandfather. If we split up, I might have to pay him alimony. I'm not sure if that could be protected, but I've never considered divorce. It's for my children that I keep Randy around. He may be an asshole, but he's actually a good father. Just a thought, Mr. Jacobs. I said I'm trying to be discreet, but I'm sure Randy knows I sleep with other men. Sometimes on Wednesday nights, I don't wash myself too thoroughly after sex with Ryan. It turns me on. Smiling across the table, she said, "Would you like to be my partner in revenge? Do you have time on Friday morning? It has to be in the morning. I pick my kids up from school in the afternoon." My disappointment disappeared, and I began to feel joy at the prospect. I haven't had sex since I discovered Carly with that bastard Wiseman. She offered me the opportunity to take revenge and console my passion. I said, "I know your address. I will arrive at 10 a.m. on Friday. I take it the children will be at school." She nodded. We said goodbye, and I started getting ready for Friday. I didn't expect it to be like this, but she was a beautiful woman who enjoyed sex and offered herself for my revenge. What's not to like? Although it wasn't what I expected, I was looking forward to the end of my drought. It had been over a year since I had sex. We met on Friday, and it turned out we had amazing sex. We lay together, hugging each other, enjoying the moment. Esther said, "Ron, your wife is an idiot, leaving such a wonderful man for my husband. Stupid, stupid girl." She laughed. "It's funny that there was a big wet spot on his side of the bed. I think I'll leave these sheets as a lesson to him. You know we'll be doing this many more times, right?" I raised my eyebrows in question. "You better believe it, mister. You better than Ryan. If you have no other candidates, I will be happy to make you my Friday sex partner, if you agree. Besides, do you feel like there is a connection between us?" I smiled at her and said, "Esther, I can't tell you how much I needed this. It was amazing, probably better than I've ever had with Carly, to be honest. And yes, I felt a huge connection. I didn't want to let go of you in my arms. So you can count on me as your Friday sex partner for as long as you want. I can't imagine revenge being sweeter." MWE hugged and fell asleep for 20 minutes in each other's arms. When we woke up, I was a little early, watching Esther's beautiful face as she opened her eyes. "Like what you see, Ron?" "Very, Esther, you are a beautiful woman. I don't understand why your idiot husband is chasing other women. If I had a wife like that at home, I would never cheat." "I'll remember this, Ron. I don't think my marriage will last, despite my best efforts to save it for the sake of the children. Look, Ron, we barely know each other, but this is a great start. I want to sleep with you one more time before you have to leave and I get ready for the kids." So we had sex again, feeling more and more connected, real feelings arising in what started out as simply an act of revenge for each of us towards her husband. 4 weeks later, the shine of our sex had not faded, and we were becoming more and more attached with each passing week. It was starting to become something more than revenge. That Friday, in the afterglow of what was clearly love and not just sex, Esther turned from her embrace and looked me straight in the eyes. She kissed me on the cheek and said the famous words, "Ron, we need to talk." She kissed me passionately to assure me that the conversation would not be bad, but I was afraid that she was going to stop our meetings. "Ron, I told you that Randy and I have family money. I have a trust fund from my grandfather. He thought my father would not be able to manage the money wisely, so he made me the beneficiary of the trust. The amount, believe me, is huge. My grandfather saved up more money than anyone could spend in one lifetime. But if there was anyone who could try to spend it all, it was my father. His grandfather didn't trust him, so he gave him a small amount every month so that he would be provided for, but not too rich. He placed the rest in a trust fund that will be fully available to me when I turn 38. I don't know why I'm 38, but I have 8 months left until I reach that age. After our first Friday, For some reason, I decided to check the terms of the trust fund regarding divorce. He is untouchable. Randy will not be able to get a penny. I brought it into our marriage, and neither of us added money to it, so it's pretty much untouched. My financial advisor says it may be important, but overall he believes the fund is untouchable. It made me wonder, do I need Randy? Can I just give him unlimited visitation rights by mutual agreement? I've realized over the past month that I'm just putting up with Randy. I really don't like him. Why should I put up with crap that constantly betrays me? I understand that this may seem hypocritical, but he had several affairs before I started cheating. Ron, I'm not saying I want you to replace Randy. I'm saying I've developed feelings for you, and I'd like to see you on my own terms for as long as we both want. I'm happy to break up with Ryan if that's okay with you. Esther, this is probably the best we need to talk in the history of mankind. I thought you were going to tell me thank you and goodbye. I very much agree with what you're suggesting. Just like you, I think we started this as an act of revenge, but we're quickly becoming something more. We continued our meetings on Fridays until we could discuss everything properly. She told me she met Ryan on Wednesday, but it was only to say thank you and goodbye. Ron, I have a cruel but very interesting idea. Let me tell you my cunning plan that I would like to implement next Friday morning. When she finished, I couldn't wipe the smile off my face. This woman is a genius. I loved it. So the following Friday, Esther and I were having our usual Friday marathon of sex. Couldn't get enough of each other at this stage, when downstairs in the living room sat a gentleman named William Fox in a business suit, calmly waiting when we heard, "Who are you, and why are you in my house? Where is Esther?" It was Randy. Esther called him and told him that there was something important that required his presence in the house at noon. He told her that he was busy and was trying to find out more information, but she repeated that it was very important and he needed to be there. "Are you Mr. Randolph Weissman, sir? Your wife told you what to expect. She's upstairs with her boyfriend now, if you want to see her." What the hell is going on? We heard Randy coming up the stairs. Esther was looking at the door, waiting for it to open, when I turned my back to the entrance. That's when Esther started. "Oh yes, take me Ron, you are much better than my husband, and you know how to satisfy a woman." A bit overacted, but convincing enough for a shocked Wiseman. "Randy, honey, you look like you're going to have a heart attack. Calm down, I'm just sleeping with other people like you." This cuckold, "You must be joking," he screamed. "Why the hell do you have this weakling in my bed? Get him out of here before I kill him." I got out of bed and walked up to him. "So, cuckold, how do you like my revenge? When you talk about killing me, are you confusing ambition with opportunity? Remember I promised you a visit to the pain doctor?" He turned white with fear. I said, "Relax, we have a different kind of pain for you. There is a gift for you under your pillow. Why don't you take it out?" I pushed him towards the bed. Reaching under his pillow, he pulled out a manila envelope. Esther and I said at the same time, "You were summoned with a subpoena." William Fox took a photo before saying, "It's official now." Ideally, we achieved our goal, and the fool stood there as if struck by thunder. I've rarely seen anyone so shocked, other than when I dislocated his shoulder, I guess. Esther lightly spanked Randy to bring him to his senses. She told him that after what he did to me, it was fair payback, that she no longer loved him, that his constant infidelities in the marriage had finally turned her love into real disgust, that she promised never to come between him and his children and would grant him unrestricted visitation rights. Finally, he should get himself a lawyer if he wants, but that they can use the same lawyer, since she is confident that they can do this right, get a divorce without a fight, and keep everything clean for the sake of their children. Randy, to his credit, nodded in agreement with her words. He might be an asshole, but he wasn't stupid. He knew his marriage was over and fighting would only waste time and money. I stood quietly watching his world crumble. I achieved more than I planned. I divorced Carly, and thanks to my mother, I did it with dignity. She made a mistake that ruined her life. She apologized, and I knew she was sincere. She accepted her fate. Why make it worse? My mom was right. I extracted $1 million from Carly's employers, and now, with the help of his wife, I repaid Weissman by turning him into a cuckold, doing what he did to me, ruining his marriage. Maybe I even did what Carly asked of me when she said, "Don't let my stupidity ruin your life. Find the woman you deserve, have a family, and make you both happy, make your parents proud, live a wonderful life." Carly messed up, but gave me good advice when her hope faded. Here's a retelling, focusing on the main events, and without any unethical or sexual details. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think, click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click